So we talk about aligning business planning and budgeting to the strategy. I think it's again one of my favorite topic, and I keep doing this for quite long time when I was vice president. But this is something very interesting. So let me give a quick introduction to Samir Goverdhan, a certified strategy and business planning professional, a PMP, and I think he has many certifications. Maybe you can talk about it, Samir. With more than 15 years of experience in linking strategy to operations and employee performance. He led transformation programs, driving sustainable growth and facilitated strategy development exercises and annual business planning cycles. And he ensures alignment across the organization. And he knows how the Office of Strategy Management works better than anybody else. Okay, so welcome, Samir. Over to you.
Good morning. Good morning. Am I audible?
Yeah. Can hear you.
Great. Thank you very much, Sheikh sir, and thank you very much, Mr. Nader. I think the session was very well aligned because we are talking about alignment at a strategic level, and I will make an attempt to build upon it with aligning with business planning and the annual budgeting on that. So again, thank you very much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. Let me just share my screen. I think it's a Sunday morning for everybody, but it's a working day for us still in Saudi Arabia. So I hope everybody's doing well and having their cup of coffee or tea. Can you please confirm if my screen is visible?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Am I in a presentation mode?
Perfect. Yeah.
All right, great. Okay, let me just quickly start. I have a lot of content to speak about, but I'll try to make the best of the given time. So, quick agenda. I will talk about introduction and key concepts and frameworks of strategy, followed by the alignment and cascading of strategy. Just to give the context of how does this link to strategy with operations, and I will talk about something that I've taken best experience from different frameworks and different school of thoughts, and we try to build it in practice. How does this work in an organization, and followed by certain common challenges that we all as strategists face during this exercise, and the conclusion. So a quick brief about myself. I consider myself as a student of the strategy management and business planning world. I have, as Mr. Sheikh said, I have a little more than 15 years of experience of trying to implement different practices and different frameworks across different industries. But primarily, I look into the strategy management office. For the last 8 to 9 years, I've been working in the strategy management office. I've established SMO. I've also established PMO. I'm currently working in a holding company, privately holding company. It has a diversified portfolio of investments, and I look at the strategy management office there. I'm also active volunteer with PMI KSA chapter, and I do some pro bono consulting as well. All right. So just to bring some context to everybody, just to align on the concepts, that is the strategic management. As you can see, we start with the market and the stakeholders' needs, and starts with value and mission. That is at the 30,000 feet altitude, and we trickle it down all the way to the operations, that is the ground level, through strategy, operations, strategic themes, initiatives, performance measures, and so on and so forth. So what is strategy? In essence, you have a baseline that if you're an already operating organization, you have a baseline that you're operating at current level. And then you have, is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay.
Strategic management.
All right. So essentially what we're trying to do here is we're trying to build a value that we aspire to, which is the desired value. So what strategy is all about is the essence that captures the value gap, and how do we close this value gap is the strategy itself, right? In a very simple way to put it. There are many definitions across different schools, but I believe this captures the essence what we are trying to do in the management of strategies. So just to build context of what we'll be discussing, mainly we'll be focusing on the strategy map, which has a cause and effect relationship. I'll not get into the details of it. There is the balance scorecard template. I believe everybody here is well versed of what's a balance scorecard, so I'm not going to get into the details of that. Followed by the frameworks of strategy management. Uh, there are many schools, and there are a lot of evolution that has happened over the years, in my opinion. And of course, there is the gold standard, that is Robert Kaplan and David Norton as well. But I think in the recent times, I think Mr. Mihai, I really think very highly of him. I think he has come up with an very comprehensive framework that I believe is very good for capturing the different aspects of strategy management, all the way from experimenting, simulating, scenario planning, to formulating, to executing, as well as reporting and adapting. I think he has worked very highly in this framework to capture. Did a lot of research, and he captured the different aspects and connected the dots together. So I believe this framework makes a lot of sense, and I was lucky to be part of his first cohort where he explained this to every one of us. And I think this is one of the new standards across the strategy management framework. And then, of course, going back to the gold standard, that is the strategy, execution premium. I think this book is one of the go-to books, and I think it's still relevant in today's world across the globe of strategy management. Today, I'll be focusing more on the alignment and the planning of operations, which is where the alignment of business planning and operations links. So, what is strategy alignment and cascading of strategy? So, typically, we have leaders who has a vision, or who have a aspiration that they want to drive, and they want to take the organization to the next level. And you can see across many examples. But are their departments, are his leaders, the team that the leader has, are they all aligned? This is the real question. And the more you see, the more mature the organizations are, it kind of gets difficult because everybody's operating in silos, everybody has different agendas. So it becomes hard for the leader to take an organization in one direction. And that's where the real issue of alignment starts. As uh, there is a goal, there is an aspiration, but the resources, or the departments, or the functions, or the business unit are either scattered, or they're working different direction. So in essence, what we're trying to do in strategic alignment is we're trying to take all these resources, the limited resources that we have, in one direction, in that are contributing to each other, and the leader is taking them through them. So this is the essence of proper alignment and cascading. As I mentioned, alignment is the process of ensuring all the contributors. That is how you create the value, and how you create an optimal contribution with the limited resources that is available. So, going back to very basic strategy is nothing but taking from how you take an organization from point A to point B, which is the formulation part, and how do you execute is the real challenge, which is where most of the strategies fail, as we all know by now, and explained multiple times over the year. There's a lot of research done on it, why strategies fail, and it's predominantly on the execution part. So what we need here is the alignment of efforts and resources towards one common direction, which is the essence, and that's what is the uh, overall domain of strategy management, from planning to execution to reporting as well. Again, one of the books that came after the execution premium is the alignment, which is this book, and I think this is one of the uh, best books I've come across for alignment on at a strategic level. And as you can see on the right side to your screen is the enterprise value, the how the enterprise scorecard is built, which is driven by financial synergies and customer synergies, internal process synergies, learning and growth. So here, the whole book tries to capture how the alignment is done across the organization in a very technical way and in a very professional way, rather than making it very haphazard. And I think one of the key aspects of this book is talking about enterprise value and how an enterprise is creating synergy. And I think it's very important for us in today's world, especially working in holding companies. I have come across a common challenge of how we create value for our businesses within our holding company and our portfolio of investments. So here, this book talks about value creation, which is a combination of customer derived value plus enterprise derived value. So what is enterprise derived value? It's nothing but how we create synergies across these multiple business units to create value for our customer, which is the customer derives the value, which results in the value creation. So it's a win-win situation for all of us. So how do we create that value? There is a strategy for that, which is the customer value proposition and plus the enterprise value proposition. So as an enterprise, what's our value proposition? What value we are delivering to these business units, plus the customer value proposition, which is the value we are delivering to the customers, eventually resulting in the value creation. And again, going back to, as I mentioned, on how we finish the value gap is the value creation itself. Again, there is a new update on how this book was established, and now we are talking about outcomes, stakeholders, internal process, and enablers, rather than financial outcomes or financial perspectives. There is the new version of this, and again, there is a triple bottom line scorecard as well that was recently established, which is not just talking about financial, which is also talking about the social and economic impact on the overall society and the communities that the organizations operate in. Again, here, just a quick brief how we integrate all of this. You have the enterprise scorecard on the left side, which is talking about the outcomes and the stakeholders. Then you have the business units, which are within these organizations. And then you look at each business unit, how they deliver the value and how they are aligned at these different perspectives and these different objectives level. So some of the prerequisites for having this alignment, and one of the key elements that we considered, and as Mr. Nader was saying earlier also, is having alignment as a process rather than an activity or rather than a task. So it must be embedded in the organization as a process itself, rather than a one-time activity that you do and then you forget about it, right? So there are some prerequisites, as I mentioned. One is the strategy development, the other one is translating the strategy, and the strategic and organizational readiness. So the key aspects of this is, of course, you should have the mission, vision, values established. You should have a clear choice of strategy. You should have a strategy map established, the objectives and KPIs and the targets identified. Of course, the initiatives as well, which can be directly cascaded or can be contributed by the SBUs. The key aspect of this in the strategic and organizational readiness, which I came across, is the capabilities, and which is what Mr. Mihai also talks about highly on the importance of having the capability system. What capabilities do we need to deliver this strategy? And this is where one of the key challenges that I came across the businesses in my experiences. We aspire for these big ambitions to deliver 4x growth, 5x growth, but we are very far away from the reality, and we fail to see that the capabilities in the system, the capability system is not equipped to deliver that kind of strategy. So how do you reach a certain level of growth, and how do you reach to the next level? You need a certain different type of processes, different type of capabilities to take you to that next level. So again, that's one of the key aspects that is missing, across the organizations. So what's a good strategic alignment? There are basically 6 to 7, or in a sense, six main aspects of a good strategic alignment, which ensures consisting. Basically, you need to understand a clear strategy, how we ensure that the strategy is consistently understood by everybody. How do we optimize our resources, and how are they available, even they are if available for the strategic initiatives or not. We have to clarify the touch points and handoffs within the business model. So a lot of functions are established, but there is no clear handoffs and how they integrate with each other horizontally and vertically. This is again a challenge. So there is a business model, then there is the operating model, which needs to be very clearly identified, established, and communicated as well. And that needs to reflect in the business processes rather than just a theoretical exercise. It should reflect in the business processes. Again, you need to ensure consistent communication of the key messages. What is your strategy? How you're trying to drive? How the value is created for the customer and for the enterprise, and how it drives the collaboration. So it's a collaborative effort. It cannot work in silos. You have to drive collaboration from all the functions. It's a collective effort. And of course, the strategy is driven by the employees at the most lowest level, the strategic job families, as we call it. And this, you need to empower them for and engage them to ensure that they deliver the strategy. So what's the role of corporate and corporate office here? That is to make strategy everybody's job. And there are typical roles that a corporate office plays, starting from passive to active. Active means you're actively engaged in their operations, in their day-to-day activities to a reasonable extent. And passive means you are more of an investor and you're taking a passive approach where you're guiding them, assisting them, governing them. Typically, corporate offices take the passive role because you don't want to get dragged into their operations, especially when you are having diversified portfolio of investments. It becomes a lot of challenge, and your competency as holding or a corporate office becomes very limited to ensure that you are catering to different sectors with the subject matter expertise. So how do you do the cascading is through four dimensions, that is the strategic themes, objectives, KPIs, and initiatives. And as we discussed in the last couple of days, there are different ways of cascading. There is the identical, contributory, and new that comes across all these four elements, which is objectives, KPIs, and initiatives. And again, it starts from corporate, business unit, department, and individual, and the information flows back all the way, which is how the strategy is delivered at the corporate level. So give me 1 minute, please. How do we deliver the cascading of the strategy? As I explained, you start from corporate business unit, you have different business units, then it goes down to departments, then it goes down to managers. Very straightforward and self-explanatory. The timelines typically starts from strategic planning, which as you try to build your strategy and execute a strategy, it takes 4 to 6 years on an average, because you're trying to build the capabilities that did not exist or may need to be enhanced, which does not move the needle so fast and so swiftly. And then you build your business plans that deliver this strategy on a horizon of 1 to 3 years. And then you build the annual business plans and budgets for 1 year, which is the short time. So if you're driving a car, if you see, you can only see a distance to light in the night to a certain extent. So as you keep moving forward, you keep seeing more distance, more coverage. So it's somehow like that. So you have to keep rolling forward your business plans and your strategy until you realize the vision. That again reflects into an annual operating plan, which is where the departments establish their annual operating plan that contributes or is cascaded from the business plans. And definitely you have the individual performance plans where they are broken down into annual, quarterly, or monthly, depending on the nature of the organization and the maturity of the organization. So alignment with support function is critical. Again, key support functions are finance, human resources, information technology, and communications. I cannot stress enough on these enablers, because finance is definitely one of the key aspects. Human resource, it's the the intellectual capital of your organization. IT, the information capital, and of course the continuous communication of the organization across the different streams. And of course, now we get into the linking of strategy with operations, where basically, how do you link the strategy now that you have established a good strategy with objectives, KPIs, and how do you essentially link into operations? And what Robert Norton and Dr. Robert and Norton came across is they found there is a huge disconnect between operations and managing the strategy. And the reasons are because mainly operations have different priorities, or there is no feedback loop that is reflecting the quality of operations overall on the strategy itself. So strategy, you're looking at strategic choices, strategy map, balanced scorecard, and operations is looking at budget, expenses, day-to-day issues, firefighting, logistics, delivery, workforce planning, So how do you link this? This is where the alignment comes into the picture, and how do we link the operations with the strategy? So while strategy map identifies a very high level, you need to make sure that it goes down all the way to the bottom. That is where the real revenue is generated, real action is on the ground. Uh, Again, executing the strategy requires, as I mentioned earlier, on the core business processes. There is a lot of processes across the organization, but there are some key strategic processes that need to be transformed in order to execute a certain strategy. So, for example, I can give an example of in a construction industry or a ready-mix company. One of the key aspects is the delivery of the concrete itself, because there is a limited shelf life. It takes a couple of 3 to 4 hours of time to deliver the concrete. That's the maximum shelf life of the concrete. So you have to ensure that delivery happens within that life. Again, this is general, and every organization has certain strategic process. So Amazon might be having on the delivery and the logistics of how do you procure and deliver the items on at the customer side. So these are certain key processes that need to be delivered, that need to be enhanced or transformed in order to deliver that strategy. One of the key aspects that this alignment talks about is how do you identify such processes. So we use something called driver-based performance model that links the strategies to operations. So rather than looking at key very high-level objectives and KPIs, you break that down into outcomes and the driver that is resulting in that outcome. So in essence, outcome is an effect and the driver is the cause. For example, if you want to, let's say, double your revenues, right, or increase your revenue. So what could be a driver? The driver is, for example, uh, market growth. There is new markets that have opened, international diversification, merger and acquisitions. These are all drivers that can contribute to that outcome. You can expand your product portfolio. Now, how do you expand your product portfolio? You need to do research and development. You need to reach out to the customers, understand their business needs, their customer needs. So some of the methods are, as mentioned here, are value tree. So you take one value and you start identifying how do you create that value. There is SIPOC, very commonly used. There is Fishbone and there is CSF. Typically, horizontal processes are more useful, more effective rather than vertical, because the vertical just looks at cascading. Horizontal looks at process driven rather than a pure vertical performance. Now we come to the core of the topic, which is our integrated planning performance. Sheikh sir, how are we doing on the time?
We have 30 minutes, maybe 5 minutes here or there, no problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All
5
right.
minutes or 36 minutes, you can say. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So now we talk about the integrated planning process, which is something that I've been working closely on the last 7 years, and I have matured it in with different organizations that I work in, and there is no one solution that fits all. Every organization works in a different at a different level, at a different maturity level. The DNA of the organization is different. What we have tried to do, or what we have tried to customize the frameworks to that meets the business needs. And what I found in my humble limited experience, it's like an orchestra, and OSM or the SMO or the strategist are essentially a conductor of this orchestra, and they're trying to make all these different functions work together in a harmony to create that music, right? And how do you do that? That's where the real challenge is. It's definitely not easy. There is a lot of different moving parts. There are a lot of different mindsets that are working in different directions. So the essence is to bring all these guys together in a logical, sequential way, and hopefully you can come up with a well-aligned business plan or an annual budget that is aligned with your strategy. So in the next few slides, I'll take you through a journey of how the business planning and annual budgeting is linked with strategy. As just to summarize, you start with strategy development, planning, translating, and reviewing the strategy during the cycle of your year. Then you align the organization, you do the business planning, you do the annual budgeting, and then you execute that budgets or those actions that you plan during your budget and business plans, and then you adapt accordingly. So again, the essence here is while this every organization operates differently from a startup to a mature organization, but they're all running on a time clock. So the organization timelines are different, but I will try to take a very simple approach and make a generic standard timelines that we think is reasonable for all these different activities. So you as typically we think strategy and business plans and annual budgets are different exercises, and there is a stop start activity or exercises, but essence you are running the strategy management across the stream. These are not separate, they are not mutually exclusive. They all are integrated, and they are an outcome or an output of the earlier activities that you will be doing. So you are doing the strategy management. Part of the strategy management is planning your business, which is coming from the alignment and the actions that you want to take, the transformation initiatives that you want to drive, which should reflect in your business plans, which should also talk about your operations. So your day-to-day operations plus the initiatives make your business plans. Now, how you, of course, the finance element sets in the core of this is you need the resources, you need the time, you need the money to fund these strategic initiatives, which we call as statics, as commonly used in the strategy world. So that should reflect in your annual budget, right? If you don't reflect this, your strategy is a nice theoretical document that is setting on a on a table that everybody looks at as amazing strategy that was formulated, but it's not reflecting in actions. So you do the hard work of planning, formulating, aligning the organization, and then you don't reflect in the business plans and annual budgets. Good luck getting your strategy executed. So in essence, we have tried to make it a 7-step activity or 7 key deliverables as part of the business plans and annual budget, which starts from performance analysis. That is at a business unit level. I'm going to focus on business unit level because this I think applies to more or less all the organizations, irrespective of if they have a holding or not. And if they have holding it, it has slightly different layers, but generally speaking, I think these steps will apply to everybody. So you start with business performance analysis. You understand what happened earlier. How was your last 3 or 5 years of performance? How did you do overall strategy? How did you execute your strategy? And then you look at your industry and market analysis. What's happening in the industry? What's happening in the market? Is there any changes to your assumptions that you made during your strategy? how's your market playing? Is there any changes in the market dynamics? Is there any change in the competition? Are there new players? Are there new products coming into the in the areas that you operate in? And then you look at internal aspects. For the simplicity of it, we call it business challenges, or we can call it jobs to be done that cater for this, or you call it, some companies use SWOT analysis. But what we are trying to essentially capture here is what are the gaps that we need to capture or to overcome, uh, in order to meet our vision and the strategy. Then you refresh your strategy and you refresh your vision. Again, it's not mandatory to change or revise your vision or strategy. Maybe you are just tweaking the vision a bit here and there, tweaking your strategy a bit, or components of strategy, because your assumptions change, your facts change. There is different elements that are now in the market that is impacting your organization. And then you look at the balance scorecard. Again, if there is a need for changing in the objectives or KPIs or the targets itself, then eventually reflecting those changes into your annual business plans, and then which has different components. I'll quickly take you guys through in the next few slides, and the annual budget, which is predominantly a financial exercise. The timelines is you typically start in Q3 doing all these activities, and you will spill over into Q4, where you go into the detailing of business planning and the annual budget, where you take the approval from the stakeholders. So I'll focus on the business planning process. Typically, it's a structured process that translates the strategic objectives into actionable plans, outlining the initiatives and resource allocation, of course, with the performance metrics. So what we do, what we came across is some of the practices that we established is, we launch the business planning exercise. We communicate. We start by launching the exercise itself, where we OSM announces to across the organization that, guys, we are launching the business planning exercise as we built our strategy, or we went through the reviewing of the strategy, and now we are launching this exercise typically around Q3. We share one of the key aspects that we do is, practice we do is, we give a guidelines, a document that we share with all the business units, where it has the key milestones and the deliverables, and of course it has the templates and the best practices that we want and the milestones that we want them to achieve throughout this process, throughout this exercise. So that gives them a heads up, that gives them clarity on what is to be expected from them and what kind of approach they need. And one of the key aspects is to capture and identify who are the key stakeholders, as mentioned below, finance, human resources, OSM, which is also PMO. And some organizations PMO is separate, or the strategy execution office is separate, and of course the other departments. And surely leadership goes without saying, the commitment of the leadership. And then we conduct workshops to train the custodians of strategies in these business units. It can be a workshop, it can be a training. We train them on the templates that they need to work on, and these are generic templates. Every organization customizes depending on their needs, but they need to ensure that the essence of those business plans, the major components, are captured. And then business units prepare their business plans. As I mentioned earlier, they take the inputs, they go through the whole cycle of what information is needed, they collect information, do their research, do their analysis, and then they prepare those workshops. And as I mentioned, we do internal workshops to review their business plans, to discuss their business plans, what they have prepared, and we suggest some recommendations that are modifications that need to be made. Then the business units and the OSM business units, OSM in the business units compiles the business plan to prepare it for the executive review. Then the top management reviews it, shares their feedbacks. They go back and they make any changes. And then finance departments takes it, assuming that it's all okay. Finance departments refines it, and then they collaborate with the relevant functions to ensure that the financial aspects of them are captured. And then you go to the budget approval, which is you present it to the boards, and they present it to the board for their final approval. So essentially, that's the business planning process. This is just an illustrative of how the business planning runs. And then These are the different components of a strategy review. Again, as I mentioned, how do you do the strategy review? One of the major challenges we come across is how do you see where you are today, right? So, or what has been done, what areas to focus on. So these are, again, this is just a generic aspects that we consider that should be part of a strategic review, where you start with balance scorecard, initiative, performance review. You look at the key assumptions and facts that influence your strategy. This is one of the key aspects that we look at, what changed in the organization. You will look at past 3 years performance, which is the financial and the products portfolio. You have current year performance, which covers different elements: financial statements, cash flow analysis, your collections, payables, your HR cost, operations. So you go through all this journey to understand, and you summarize your performance, right? How you have performed over the last 3 years. Then, as I mentioned, you look at the industry and market analysis. You look what changed in the industry. Are there any new trends in the market, new products, any technology disruptions? I think now AI is taking over almost, or slowly getting into all elements or all aspects. Um, Technology at robotics coming into the picture, especially in construction domain. It's revamping the way we do business, almost disrupting the whole industry itself in a way. It's happening slowly. I working since I'm close to the construction industry or contracting sector, and I get more closer view on the technological disruptions happening there. You look at the competitor analysis. You look at the key projects that are expected in the areas of business operations. So let's say you're doing a technology enhancement, you're revamping your ERP system, you're changing your management system, your HR system. That can influence your overall organization. So sometimes the compliance comes from the regulatory bodies, that you have to comply with certain systems. You have to ensure that those projects that are happening to ensure you comply with those regulatory requirements. Eventually, you summarize all these into the business challenges, reflecting an external and internal aspects. As I mentioned, you look at the vision, strategy, and strategy, especially focusing on the strategic change agenda. I think few years ago we discussed, or last year we discussed on how this change agenda works, what areas you want to focus on, what aspects you want to change. And again, you look into the refreshed balance scorecard. So if you want to tweak any objectives, KPIs, and targets, and you reprioritize your initiatives, your portfolio of initiatives, you re-budget them. You might need to drop some initiatives that is not relevant, that is not delivering the relevant benefits that you want. You, by all means, you should drop it. Don't wait for anything. If everybody's in alignment to drop an initiative, this is one of the challenges that I saw. People don't really take that step of dropping. It's very hard for them, because especially there's money and investments made into it, but it's not relevant anymore. So you have to make those hard decisions. So typical business plan contains, as I mentioned, sales and marketing plan, capex and financing plan, operating plans. All these different areas have sub-components, like sales. You look at the product portfolio, geographical diversification. Capex, you look at at expanding your capacity, you're expanding your fleet, expanding your assets, establishing new factories. Operations, you're looking at how do you improve your operational effectiveness. Supply chain looks at how well you're integrated, your vendors relationship. HR looks at your training, development, your workforce environment, how do you engage employees, so on and so forth. So I'll not get into the details of this. Then you reflect into the annual budget. Eventually, all the plans that you did in your business plan here should reflect in your annual budget. So if you notice, I mentioned this as a component of business plan, because essentially your business plan is incomplete if your annual budgets or your budgets or financials are not reflecting in that business plan. So it's not like you finish your business plan, then you start your annual budgeting. They are happening parallelly and simultaneously together. So your final business plan should ensure that the annual budgets are taken into that. One of the key elements of annual budget is the key facts and assumptions, which is many organizations, I feel, or it's somehow embedded or delayed, or somehow hidden and not clearly established, because this is what is driving your annual budget. So your percentage, for example, your revenue growth, how much are you expecting? How much are you expecting to reduce your cost if you are planning to reduce your cost? What's your statics? Again, as strategy, typically organizations focus on the financial parts and they just look at the top line and bottom line. But as strategists, one of our challenges to ensure the statics is captured there. Because if it's not captured, good luck negotiating with finance department to get your budgets released for any initiatives that uh, you may have. Again, followed by the all of this should eventually reflect in your standard financial statement, which is income statement, cash flow statement, and the balance sheet statement. Uh, so there are different types of business plans available across the board. Uh, there is business plans for feasibility. I'm currently working on a feasibility business plan, which is looking at establishing a new business unit in a different niche area. So it's more focused on the feasibility of establishing the business rather than running the business. But typical business plan has these components. I'll not get into the details of it, but you look at executive summary, the company overview, products and services, key industry and market outlook, the business strategy, and followed by the regular core functions and the support functions. One of the key aspects again is looking at the strategy itself. What you need to do is how you reflect the strategy. Every company has different way of reflecting their strategies, but it's important to ensure your strategy is embedded as part of this business plan, so everybody understands that this is our strategy and this is how we are translating it into operational actions and operational terms. Now, a business plan is incomplete without departmental plan, and this is often overlooked by strategists or the departments in, especially the financials or the leadership, because they think the business plan is done at a very high level, at a business level. But as strategists, we should go into the departmental plans, because that is where the strategy now starts getting into reality, and that's where it's actually executed at a functional level. So if you look at the overall cascading, you have the corporate, you have the BU, and then you have the departments. So it's important and critical for us to ensure these big ambitious goals and targets and objectives are cascaded at department levels. So a business plan again is incomplete without a departmental plan. A typical departmental plan process again starts from launching the exercise itself. You prepare, again, OSM prepares the templates in collaboration with HR, with finance, with the relevant departments like IT. And then they are the process owners who shares it with these relevant departments. Then the departments prepare, they do an internal review with OSM. It's typically one-on-one session where we organize with them, and then the departments compile the departmental plans, because there is certain sensitivity to this information, especially when it comes to HR, where you're talking about the human resources cost, the promotions, the increments. So OSM does not get into that. It should not ideally get into that, because this is confidential. So this element should be directly captured with the HR department in isolation. But at the cost center level or at the overall cost level, that should be captured with at the departmental plan. And again, you do the executive committee review, which is with the C-suite. Your CEO should be reviewing in collaboration with other financial department and IT departments, where you present and we agree and align on the required plans. Then you refine if there is a need, and then the CEO approves, which eventually all of these department plans should reflect into your business plan. And if there is any changes that are needed to be done at a business plan level, then by all means you should change it. So that's why I mentioned the business plan is incomplete without departmental plans. Typical components of departmental plan: you start, as I mentioned, you have performance analysis. You look at your performance, you look at your mandate, And this is something that is often overlooked because people think HR is very operational, so we don't need to look. But actually, they are a critical enabler for the organization. So the mandate is given to them by the chief and by the strategy, driven from the strategy. For example, if they have to enhance their HRMS system, this is in collaboration with IT. They cannot do it in isolation. So if this is the mandate for the next 1 year or 2 years, then it should be captured there. And this should be their focus areas rather than just doing recruitment, operations, employee benefits management, and so on and so forth. Again, they should also look at their challenges, the risks and opportunities at a both function level, at a corporate level, and at a group level if you're in a group of organizations, right? Because they can see at let's say 30, 15,000 feet altitude, what's impacting their department, which might impact the corporate level, which might also impact the group. So for example, a compliance from the government organization for HR might impact the overall organization itself, or a safety regulation that has been implemented now, and the organizations need to comply. So the safety department needs to ensure that this is highlighted at corporate level and at a group level as well. So ESG is one of the key initiatives now the whole world is talking about, and how we are driving, and many big companies are driving. So this is an example for that. Again, you look at your vision in alignment with your overall strategy, overall vision of the organization. Then you refresh it if there is any change that needs to be established. You also have a strategic change agenda for a department, what changes you want to make, and then balance scorecard initiatives. Then you have the annual budget, as I mentioned. If there is any change in the positions that need to be made, new positions to be established, new functions to be established, and of course reflecting on the HR cost, the benefits, and the trainings and developments that are needed, followed by the budgets and the for initiatives and the projects that you might be running. Again, a typical financial and annual budgeting process. You start, the finance department is the process owner. They prepare the templates that are needed. Typically happens in Excel file. Some very mature organizations I worked in, some mature organization where all the budgeting exercise happens on a software, and you plug in the numbers on the software, and it integrates and consolidates the information automatically through SAP or other softwares that are available. Then the departments prepare the budgets. There is an internal review with the finance, and then there is a consolidation that is done by the finance, where they prepare scenarios, which is the best case, worst case, or most realistic scenario, and then they present it to the executive committee. And then again, they have, if there is any reflection or any refinement that is to be made, the finance department makes the refinements, and again, eventually all of this is presented to the board, the relevant board of directors at different levels for their approval. So uh, again, typical components of annual budget: you have the key facts and assumptions, you have the investment plan, you have the statics, which I mentioned, which is something normally is missing. I think separate focus needs to be established, and that's why I have highlighted this, which is the budget for initiatives to run your strategy. And I think that elevates the importance of strategy, especially when it's captured in at a budget level. You have the key performance indicators, then followed by the standard financial statements and any other regulatory. So some of the challenges, what are the expectations from the organization? So people, in my experience, I've come across, especially when there is established OSM, the leadership expects, you have like this wand that you just, run around like Harry Potter, and you do a magic spell, and voila, you have the strategy, you have the business plan, and your annual budget all within 3 to 4 weeks. Uh, I'm not sure how realistic that is, but the reality is we are a music conductor who is trying to organize this orchestra where each department is doing something different in their own world, and you're trying to make sense out of all that is happening around here, and they're all playing their own music. Does not mean they're wrong. does not mean they are they have different agendas, but it's just that they are not aligned. They don't see the bigger picture. They might not necessarily see the bigger picture because they're fighting on a day-to-day basis with their firefighting. They're catching up on operations. So it's important as strategists to you know collaborate, make this platform where they collaborate with each other. And I think annual business planning process, once established as a standalone process, gives that importance to it, elevates the need for organizations to make this let's say a very well planned and organized orchestra rather than everybody doing playing their own music. Some of the key challenges, as I highlighted, are as very simple and basic it may sound, but the clarity of the corporate itself and the vision. There is always, and more often than not, the corporate office is sitting at 40,000 feet altitude, expecting some miracles to happen on the ground, and the core business unit or the business units are fighting with something totally different. And I think that unified vision needs to be established, and this is very common across the board, and this happens even at a business unit level and at a departmental level. So the organization wants to be fully automated, IT technology driven company, and where you are struggling to basically get paper signed, so you're still working in the hard paper world, and we're talking about a digitized, automated, digitalized ecosystem. Organizational maturity, the organization's maturity differs from different organizations. I was lucky enough to work in different types of organizations at different maturity levels. That kind of gave me the breadth and the wisdom to understand that you cannot put one solution that fits for all. You have to customize, you have to tweak, and you have to understand the nature of the organization and build a system around it. Strategic readiness, again, as I mentioned earlier, you don't have systems, infrastructure, the human capital. Sometimes there is a change in leadership that changes the overall mindset of the organization. You need to ensure the information capital is there uh, to capitalize on how to use this information to build your strategy and how to modify it, how to tweak it. One of the challenges I came across is having a single source of truth. You have different information scattered across in different areas. They might be reasonably accurate, or there is information to say at the best. How accurate is a different story altogether. So you need to ensure the organization is ready for this. Again, another point is people think that strategy is one time. You do the strategy, it's very exhausting, very engaging. You do it one time during the year, let's say Q2 or Q3, and say, done. So now let's go to work. So actually, that's not true. Strategy is an active process that is continuously iterating, and it's a continuous process, and you need to be ready and fluid enough to adapt to the changing environment. Stakeholder engagement, very obvious. People working in silos, conflicting schedules. One of the most painful aspects of business planning process is schedules are so conflicting that it's very hard to get people on one table in one time. And people, who are strategists, I'm sure here are aware of what it takes to bring people in one table. Process compliance, once you have the process established, uh, let's say people come and they want to tweak, they don't agree with the process. Typical challenge, again, defining the role as and the accountability. So very obvious thing is people think OSM is responsible and accountable for executing the strategy, which is far away from the truth. We are just facilitators, and this has to be clearly established. And we are process owners. We are not the one who ensures that there is a business plan that is delivered to the highest quality. It's the relevant. There are different departments who collaborate together to contribute in this. So we are ensuring the process is happening to a reasonable quality with a reasonable timeline, as compared to the best quality, and in all honesty, OSM will not be a subject matter expert in challenging how the interest rates of the organization in the world will impact my collections or my payables or my funds, availability of funds. So you have to rely on the subject matter experts, and they should take the accountability. The same like sales and marketing, they have the ground information. They are close to the ground. They have the pulse of the market. So you have to rely on them. So I think understanding that roles and establishing that clearly is essential. Again, managing unrealistic expectations, as I mentioned earlier, you have ambitious plans, big goals. You want to do it now, but the reality is, far away from that. Information management, already mentioned. Communication gap, I can't stress enough on this. You have to build a communication plan to ensure there is consistent communication. How you overcome it, is there are practically infinite ways to improve your communication gaps. One of the key aspects that I came across in training is training and awareness. You need to train consistently, especially the custodians of the business planning process, the OSMs in the business units. You need to consistently upgrade their skills, uplift them to ensure they are the flag bearers of your business planning process on the ground within the departments or within the business units. So you need to make sure that they are continuously upgrading their skills, upgrading their mindset to the latest practices, because otherwise, if they are challenging you, they don't understand something, then it becomes much harder to ensure this process runs seamlessly. In conclusion, again, as I said, uh, needless to say, there should be a strategy management office that ensures the alignment. And if there is an OSM already established, an dedicated alignment process should be established. A comprehensive calendar should be built that manages the overall strategy management, that looks into key elements like your strategy planning exercise, business planning exercise, annual budgeting exercise, including the board reporting timelines. For example, if you have a board, an external board that you're reporting, so you should embed all this major activities, for example, human resources planning, performance planning, individual performance planning. They should all be aligned together instead of working in isolation. Ensure your budget, the strategy budget, is integrated within the annual budgeting exercise. As I mentioned, statics should be elevated. It should be separately discussed. It should be separately managed. And one of the key aspects to ensure that this happens is to make the finance department create cost centers for statics in their ERP systems. That will showcase that this needs to be catered at a technical level rather than just at a superficial or a management reporting level. Again, cascading objectives, no brainer. You have to ensure making strategies everybody's jobs. You have to incentivize performance. You have to build those feedback mechanisms where you continuously iterate. So what you saw is earlier in those earlier slides is an outcome of 3 to 5 years of maturity that was built. And I have more details on that, but I've tried to summarize it. But the business planning process was built on a continuous feedback system that we received from the ground, and how we integrated these different functions together throughout this process. Again, clear communications. You need to establish guidelines, ensure there is consistent communication. You give them heads up what's coming ahead, so they plan accordingly. Uh, as I mentioned, strategic initiative cost should be part of the budget. Uh, with clear ownership and execution. So it's not just about having the statics, it's also about giving the ownership to the relevant departments, to the relevant initiative owner, and make them accountable for it, right? And that should be part of their departmental budget, that should be part of their business unit budget. And of course, HR alignment, you need to have the leadership and employees are accountable at a KPI level, at a task level, at a initiative level as well, and this should be embedded as part of their performance plans in the annual performance plans. At the end, to conclude, Our job throughout this whole strategy management exercise or function is to make strategy execution everybody's job, and we ensure that they do it. Thank you very much. And I've concluded. I hope I finished in time. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take.
Thank you, Samir. Very insightful lecture, as usual. Very, very exhaustive. Yeah. Uh, the presentation is which is really covers the complete cycle of uh, uh, the business planning and budgeting part, which is the core topic of today. And it also covers the rest of the alignment part very nicely. Okay, so what do you advise? You see, uh, aligning budgeting and business planning and strategy is almost always has an issue because the finance people take care of the budgeting part. Okay.
Yes.
So how do you do that? Like, what is the role of Office of Strategy Management and then finance? How they work together to address this issue in your experience?
Sure, sure. Thank you very much. And I think you mentioned the pain area. It's one of the biggest challenges we as OSM come across. Uh, one of the easiest way to overcome this is to work with the finance department on a consistent basis and on a regular basis, not just for planning purposes but also for reporting purposes. So we are a close partner with finance department, with HR department, to ensure our strategy is reflected in the financial terms as well as the individual terms in terms of individual performances. So how we do this is we start working with finance department much ahead before we launch the planning exercise. So we start them on one-to-one basis that guys, we are working on business planning exercise that we are planning to launch on Q3. Please give us what's your templates, how you want to go about it. So we are the process owners, we are driving the process, and finance is working with us at different stages where they take over or where they take over the exercise at the annual budgeting exercise, where we take a backseat. We just ensure that they are taking care of the statics or the strategy related aspects into their annual budgeting exercise. So we work Q3 and Q4, we are basically sitting in each other's office on a day-to-day basis. It's as simple as this. Probably on weekends as well. So one of that is you have to make friends with finance, eat together, work together. There is no other way. And typically finance don't want new additional cost to be captured. They are very conservative in the way approach, very numerical. So if you come and tell them about vision, they'll say you lost them already. So you have to make it easy for them to digest and consume, and make it as easy for them. So that's why I think I cannot stress enough on the importance of templates, standardized templates that we work with. That makes it easy for them. Because consolidation, I worked with organizations where we had 30 different business units, consolidating at a different level, all through Excel sheets. So it's a nightmare to say the least for finance department. So our job is to make it easy for them. So we prepare the meal as much as we can, so it's easy for them to consume. So it can go down to capturing the cost center levels, and we as strategists, we can put that as part of our planning exercise and say, this is where finance comes in and this is how we take it. So it's easy for them to put it into their ERP systems. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. Any final thoughts? We are on schedule. Yeah, we are running like 5 minutes late. Yeah. Any final thoughts, Samir?
I think I've covered most of it. And in a nutshell, as I mentioned, I think we need to, as strategists, this is a continuous process, and we need to ensure alignment is a process that is established within the OSM. We have to make it a dedicated process, and you have to work collaboratively with the special functions or the key functions, which is IT, HR, and finance, to ensure this happens. Otherwise, I don't see this in my limited, humble experience. This is just a theoretical exercise. It's never going to happen. So you have to work with these core functions.
Thank you, Samir. Thank you very much for wonderful lecture and very insightful. Thank you as usual. Okay, so have a good
I
time.
just want to, since Mr. Mihai is here, Mr. Mihai, I don't know if you got a chance to see my presentation in the beginning.
I did.
I just wanted
I did, yeah.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to give humble appreciation and thank you to you for opening our mindset and for taking this strategy management flag to the next level. I really appreciate what you do, and it means a lot to me. I'm learning every day as you continue to open our mindset. So I really appreciate. I look forward to all that you do in this world, and I'm really excited for this next session.
Thank you very much, Samir. Well, I've learned a lot from the interaction with the people that we work together in the courses and other opportunities, and I'm learning as well. So don't imagine that those ideas come from heaven into my head.
So fantastic.
Thank you.
Samir.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's a work day for me, so I'll need to get back to work.
Please.
Thank you again. Thank you, everybody. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
We will
available
offline.
Thank you.
And then we can
have a
connect.
great day,
Thank you, Samir.
Thank you, everybody.